Indiethon. I'm Indiethon again, and this is going to be Hollow Knight by Noodles. Yes, so take it from here.
Hello, everyone. My name is NoodlesYes, or Noodles if you prefer. Today I'll be running Hollow Knight 100% True Ending. Um, Hollow Knight is a Metroidvania game. Basically, it just involves running around a very large map, collecting abilities, defeating bosses, and pretty much just exploring the world until you get to the final boss and beat the game. I'm joined today with my co-commentator, Violet. Violet, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, yes, I'm Violet White. I run a little bit of everything with Hollow Knight. I haven't run 100% specifically, but I have a lot of experience with categories similar to this. Yeah, that's me. Noodles, do you want to talk about your own experience with this category right now?
Yeah,
Just before we get into it.
sure. So I started running this category, probably 6 months ago, because I love the idea of the 1xx categories. In Hollow Knight, we have 4 max completion categories for different patches of the game. They all involve a specific quest line that this run doesn't have, and I don't like the quest line. Therefore, I run this category.
Yeah, one main thing to note is that this is on a earlier patch of the game before most of the DLC. So there is going to be plenty of content that you may be familiar with from Hollow Knight that we do not have. There are rooms that you may know from the game that simply do not exist in this version. And in addition to that, a lot of minor tech is slightly different from on more recent patches of the game, and even from the more common speedrun patches. We'll touch on that whenever it comes up.
I think that's pretty much it as far as introductions. So, am I good to give a countdown, or how are we doing this?
I believe you should be good to give a countdown, but we're waiting to see if there's...
Flotsam, are we good for countdown?
I think we are.
Alright. So, in 3, 2, 1, go. One thing you might have noticed is that the game language is in Chinese. I do not know how to read Chinese. The reason that we have it in Chinese is because there's a lot of text mashing in this game, and this is just simply the fastest one. As far as text boxes and number of characters in those text boxes.
Yeah, I believe for max completion categories, the time saved from being in Chinese is up to minutes, which is
English
kind of wild to think about. I believe English is
it's just so
yeah.
slow. The text scrolls very slowly, and
there's more characters. Yeah. As we go through these cutscenes, I guess the general structure of this run is that we will be early on skipping around the map a little bit just so that we can pick up our main movement abilities, which allow us to full clear out areas as we go through them. And then once we do have our full set of skills that we need for everything in the run, then it's just going through areas and ticking off every remaining percent on the list. With a lot of the more challenging, longer bits coming at the end of the run, which means that the middle hour and a half or so is a lot more relaxed, and it's easier to just get into the flow of going around, killing bosses, picking up items.
And already we're starting off here with a tech that's really only available on lower patches. You may have noticed that I paused and then unpaused to get control of my character, and then I opened my inventory midair. And that saves a few seconds.
I think it's like 5-6 seconds in this part specifically. The opening your inventory uncaps your fall speed, which normally if you're on the ground isn't a problem, right? But in this patch of the game, you can open your inventory at almost any point, which means we can use it to fall really quickly in specific areas, and also to avoid the hard fall animation, which is obviously time loss because we're not moving.
Yeah.
And after exiting the first area, we're going to dip back real quick to pick up our first charm. Charms are this game's equipment. There are 36 charms on this patch, I believe. 40 in total that were after those that were added. All charms are percentages, and they can be added to our skill set at benches, which are our rest spots or save points. This is Fury of the Fallen, the first charm that we get, and it increases our damage specifically if we're at 1 HP, which we will be using a little bit, but it's not as much of an upgrade as you would think because we have other damage sources that scale more quickly.
The only boss that I'm going to use it for this run is going to be this first one coming up, the False Knight.
Yeah, it's also just risky, especially in a marathon setting.
Right. So back on the inventory drop topic, that's a pretty infamous one right there. It's really easy to get hit by those flying enemies in the room.
Yeah, that's one of the bigger ones in terms of time save, but also one where sometimes you just run into 3 enemies in a row and hate everything. We're going to go through the first arena of the game. Unfortunately, that spike did not kill both of the enemies like we would like it to do.
I don't think I've gotten it a single time on this patch.
Yeah, it's one of the weird cases of tech that became easier on later patches as opposed to harder. Some of the stuff that gets changed in different versions of this game is very strange.
It doesn't always make sense what the devs decided to change and what they left the same.
Yeah. But it's alright, we play with it anyways. Or we just stick to what they've already given us and we don't care.
Yep.
But yeah, coming up here on our first boss, the False Knight, I am only slightly ashamed to say I died multiple times to False Knight when playing casually.
As did I. I think this boss took me probably 10 or 15 tries to get casually.
Yeah, that was back when I was much less of a person who played this genre of games. You will see here that we're damage taking to Fury, and because of that, this boss is basically free in terms of killing him on cycles. Unlike basically every other boss in this game, he staggers based on health. His phases are based on health rather than number of hits. For most other bosses, their stagger animation will occur based on how many times you hit them with something, as opposed to how much damage they've taken from that.
And that'll come into play more with our next boss.
Yeah. But here, as you can see, we're able to just kill him without having to deal with the other phases at all. Pick up the city crest, which we will use to get through areas later. Grab this chest of Geo, the game's currency. Just steal this guy's lunch money and
We're gonna beat him up and take his money.
also, yeah.
And here we pick up our first upgrade. This is the Vengeful Spirit. It's our first spell. Basically just it's a fireball that you shoot in front of you.
Yeah. Spells will be our main source of damage throughout the run because they scale. The way to upgrade spells is a lot quicker than upgrading our our base attack damage.
It's very easy to get spell damage to obscene levels early on, as opposed to nail damage. Which
by the end game, nail damage is equal, if not better. But for most of the run, because of some factors that are changed by having higher nail damage, we tend to not upgrade it until the end of the run.
Now, normally I wouldn't bench here, but I do not like going through this area on low health, so I'm gonna be safe and get the heal.
Yeah. Next area, Green Path, is notorious for Hollow Knight speedrunning in terms of the skips required and the bosses that are, or the main boss that you fight at the end of this area.
Yeah. It's a very reset-heavy area for many categories.
Yeah, mostly because we don't have much movement yet, right? We have the fireball, and the fireball just allows us to get a bit more reach in areas because it stalls us in the air. But because of this, we don't have any way to recover skips if we end up missing them initially, and it makes things really awkward if you mess up one of your jumps, because missing the fireball skips is a lot of time, especially for shorter runs. As you can see there, the fireball skip, in addition to being an air stall, it pushes you backwards very slightly, so you're able to use the fireball to reach areas you shouldn't with a normal jump.
A lag spike there.
If
one thing about this patch of the game is it is extremely laggy, and it often eats inputs, which is always a fun time. But I did all of the lag reduction strategies I know, so hopefully it won't be too bad.
Yeah.
So this fireball skip that I just missed is the big one for this area. The other two are technically optional, but luckily we have our little swit friend there to help us get up onto that ledge. And here is the third fireball skip, which I also missed. Not a good day for fireball skips.
Yeah, some days it just doesn't work.
Oh, and I missed Dude Pogo. To be fair, I've never done that in a run, so I was just kind of winging it. I think I was supposed to go to the right, not the left.
Yeah, I think that would have been better going to the right. But as you can see, a lot of the extra movement for backing up those skips isn't impossible, it's just a lot slower. So at a high level, it ends up being really punishing to miss those things.
Yep.
Here we're abusing a thing that does not exist on later patches, where you're able to kill that Moss Knight before it notices you're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for some reason you can hit it with a fireball while it's still on the ground, and it does damage. And it takes a minute for it to activate doing that too. which I always found very odd.
Yeah.
So we're coming up onto our second boss of the game. And this is where that stagger count thing that Violet mentioned comes into play. The idea is to basically stun lock Hornet to where she can't really attack.
Yeah. Hornet, who supposedly has her own game in the works. I don't know. I feel like that's wishful thinking, but
At this point, it might as well be.
Yeah. Is a much more lively boss than False Knight. Especially if you're doing this fight with Fury, as is done optimally, it becomes a lot more dangerous. Because she can sometimes just give you patterns that kill you.
Yep. And it's always...
Every Hollow Knight runner has many a reset to Hornet.
Yes, we have all experienced a Hornet reset at one point or another.
Yeah. But thankfully, as a reward for having dealt with Hornet, we pick up the dash, which is our first proper movement ability, and also the best movement ability in the game, and one that should have been given to you at the start. I will die on this hill, and I will enjoy it.
But if you got it at the start, we wouldn't have all the cool low percent tech.
I would be perfectly fine with that. One thing you'll notice from what Noodles was doing there is that you have a set number of charm notches with which you're able to equip charms. But you can technically put on more charms than you have notches for. This is called overcharming, but it also deals double damage to you while you're overcharmed. Optimally, you do this overcharmed, but also it's not great to do.
So it's especially scary on this patch specifically because charm notches do not heal you, and they don't remove the overcharm effect.
Huh. Yeah. We are going to pick up a charm notch here. There are, I guess on this patch there are only 7 extra charm notches that we get, since one of them was added via DLC. Which will mean that having those 2 charms on would not be an overcharm now, but because we haven't sat on a bench, the game hasn't registered that properly, which makes things a little weird.
So we're going to take a slight deviation from the normal route here. Normally we would do a trick called Explosion Pogo, or E-Pogo, but instead we're going to go down through Mantis Village to take the bench there, and then we're going to grab the Mantis Claw, and we're going to save Bretta and get Dash Master early. So this is
a new reroute.
Yeah, we're still not entirely sure if it is worth it, but it's fun, and this category is ridiculously unoptimized.
This category isn't particularly heavily run at the moment, mainly because of the patch restriction, making it not feasible for lots of people. For example, I run on a laptop. I have tried playing this patch. It did not go well. But yeah, we're going to stop here before we pick up the Mantis Claw, which is the wall jump ability. Grab this bench, and we are going to do something that we did earlier but didn't comment on, which is bench warping. So the game will save your progress constantly, but when you quit out to the main menu and load into your save again, it puts you back at the last bench on which you sat, which we're able to use for movement between areas very easily.
Yeah, so there will be points where we set a bench, and then we don't take any other benches for a while, and then we warp back to the bench that we originally sat on. And you'll see that coming up here in a couple minutes.
Yep. One thing to note there was at the end of that, to get the pickup, Noodles also lured an enemy over to knock them out of the pickup state and give them control earlier than you should be able to. Because for reasons I don't pretend to understand, having control of your character is almost a binary state in this game in a lot of ways. Such that if you don't have control because you're in the middle of an animation and the game does something that would otherwise take away your control, such as like getting hit temporarily takes away control for knockback, right? Instead, the game will give you control again earlier than it's supposed to, which we use just a couple times for the sake of neat skips.
So now we have
now we're going to
Dash
put Dash
Master,
Master on.
which is a fun charm, but can also be terrifying because of this little thing called down dashing.
Yeah, so Dash Master turns our normally horizontal dash into something that can be used for downward movement as well. But one thing to note on is that on most patches of the game prioritizes your down input over your horizontal input. So if you're holding down and a direction, it will dash you downwards as opposed to horizontally. This is changed in the 1.5 version. And because of
As you see right there,
the way a lot of this movement works, using a downwards attack on enemies and often environment objects gives you height. We tend to use pogo movement a lot, and pogoing into a dash with Dash Master on can often lead to you accidentally down dashing into what you just pogoed, which oftentimes is an enemy or spikes, which you don't want to run into generally. But Dash Master is still very fun. Probably in most, maybe not all players, but most speedrunners, and definitely a lot of the rando community, has a very high affinity for Dash Master movement.
it's a lot of fun when you don't constantly
It's a lot
down
of
dash
fun
into
as
the
long
enemies,
as you're not.
like I just
Yeah,
did there.
if you are careful with it and it doesn't screw you over, it feels very good. But sometimes it just screws you over, and that's less fun.
That is just the life of a person using Dash Master. And now we're coming up to the worst part of the run, all caps. We're about to enter Soul Sanctum, which
Yeah, so now we're here in the City of Tears, which is very large, very pretty area. God, I love the music for this area so much.
Christopher Larkin did
I've
a
actually
great
learned-
job with this game.
Yeah, I've learned some of this for piano. It feels very good. We're gonna stop by here to sell a relic to an NPC. This is one of our main sources of money collection, just because it's really easy to pick up these items and then get a lot of cash for them at once. As opposed to getting Geo from enemies, which can often take a while. We're going to head through these rooms so that we can go up into the Soul Sanctum, where we will pick up our next spell and deal with a bunch of RNG teleport enemies, which is always delightful.
We don't even get to skip the majority of Soul Sanctum like we do in a 106% run.
Yeah,
Because level skips are not a thing on this patch.
Yeah, the most common speedrun patch is patch 1221, because of a weird quirk that allows you to hit levers from areas you should not be able to hit levers. And we're not on that patch, so we kind of just have to do a lot more stuff. But as you can see, these are the Soul Twisters. They sure do love getting in your way.
They were actually kind of nice to me that time. Normally they're a lot meaner.
They were nicer than they can be, but
I've had it to where they just teleport on top of me 3 times in a row.
yeah. Yeah, they have a habit of teleporting either directly inside of your character or just right where you're about to dash to. And, you know, not the kind of energy I need right now, but here's the Soul Warrior. Technically a boss, according to the developers, but, like...
These things are also snipers.
Oh, yeah, no, that should hit you out of nowhere.
Get out of my way, please. Thank you.
Yeah, see?
Just gonna show this mistake and heal up, because we're about to enter what we lovingly refer to as Hell Room. And you're about to see why.
Yeah, this sure is a room full of enemies that they decided to put into this video game.
I do the movement here. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, that's unfortunate.
That's a hell room.
We're gonna take this off because Dashmaster sucks.
Messing with your movement a bit too much.
A little bit, yeah. Especially when I get in a situation like that where I can't pogo things confidently.
Yeah,
So I don't know how you're supposed to do that movement when you don't have to pick up Raptor Seal.
I don't know.
All this elevator back down. Dying in Sanctum is not fun.
Yeah,
now I have
dying in Sanctum is definitely one of the most punishing deaths.
Because now I
you have to
do
go through the whole area again. Or at least most of it. We do at least have the levers hit, which makes a lot of things easier.
Right. And I don't actually know. This Spell Twister might actually respawn. I'm not 100% sure. Yes, it does. But it doesn't lock the gate this time.
Right.
That is not a thing
Respawn
on newer patches.
On older patches, that's... Yeah. As you can see, I don't have that much familiarity with this patch. I mostly run on the most recent patch because I, again, don't really have the hardware to do better.
Yeah, one thing about these older patches is they're very resource intensive. Oh, I got Sealing Block there.
Oh, that's just rude.
Yeah.
Yeah, now back to Hell Room.
Where is my shade? There you are. I'm gonna hit you from a distance.
Oh yeah, that's a thing we should bring up. That is your shade, which is the enemy that spawns when you die.
Ideally, you don't run into them at all
your money.
This run.
Yeah. There are a number of runs which you use your shade as a way to skip into areas you shouldn't be, because the shade is an enemy that can be lured into areas and also be pogoed for vertical movement. So there are a large number.
You'll mainly see it in any percent and true ending runs, but I believe down past all skills uses it.
All skills runs. Well, technically there's a route of all skills in 1.5 that does it, but
see, I don't know the
not
standard current patch all skills route. I use the reroute.
It's yeah, okay. It's mostly the same in terms of like stuff, but that's beside the point. This is Soul Master, by the way. He's loud. He's got organ music.
I love this music. This whole Sanctum music is probably some of my favorite music in the whole game.
Sanctum music is up there in terms of good music. But yeah, Soul Master is just more of Sanctum, you know, because we wanted that. Teleporting, RNG on attacks that you can maybe punish some of the time you were able to punish, and sometimes you can't really as well.
Sometimes he'll just teleport repeatedly to either side of the arena, and there's nothing you can do about it.
This is also a boss that optimally you fight with Fury, which, as someone who spent too many hours practicing that, it's not a fun time when sometimes he just disappears.
Yes. I did find, however, that Dashmaster unironically helps with this fight so much in the first phase.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, just because it's a bit more reach.
Because you can catch up to him a lot quicker. And now we have our second spell, the Desolate Dive. So this is super useful as...
AKA the spell that's really just movement.
Pretty much, yeah. We'll use it to break a couple of floors here in a second.
Yeah, Dive, in addition to dealing a decent amount of damage and giving you iframes for its animation, breaks a lot of floors that we kind of need broken because they're our way out of this place and into better areas.
This is
The
more
upgraded version of Dive, Descending Dark, is even more efficient at this. Dive, we don't tend to use as much for damage just because this section of the run we don't have much combat. But Descending Dark is very good in terms of damage.
Yes.
Oh hey, we got the fake dive. Let's go. That is, as I referred to it, a fake dive, where you break a floor that you're supposed to dive on without actually going through it, by being just on the edge of it. It's actually RNG on most patches. Or not specifically RNG, I believe. I think it's related to time minus fixed time. It's weird jank that they somehow made more consistent at some point.
For the 1.5 patches, I believe they're a lot more consistent for some reason.
1.5. No idea. But now we're going to head out of Sanctum. We're going to open a shortcut here for later because we will need to return in a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's not as bad the second time because of all of those shortcuts that we opened, and we'll be a little bit better equipped to deal with the Soul Twisters.
For sure. Going to put on Spell Twister, which is the charm that we picked up here in Sanctum, which reduces the cost of our spells. In the top left corner, we have the Soul Meter, which we've been using, which you get soul from hitting enemies. You can use your soul for healing or for spells. I like the balance that mechanic brings, in terms of, like, just for casual play, whether you're increasing your damage input or you're just healing. It can sometimes be awkward. But Spell Twister makes soul management a lot nicer. And in addition to... Did I say Soul Twister? Spell Twister. And in addition to Soul Catcher, the other term we have on, now every 2 enemy hits gives us a spell to cast as opposed to every 3.
Yep.
As it is at base. So we're going to take this elevator back up to the first area. This is a thing that most other runs don't do for a while, because of extra DLC questline stuff, but we're just going to pop in here really quick and pick up the first vessel fragment.
So normally, So normally, like Violet was saying, we get that vessel fragment a lot later, but because we have no reason to go back to City Storerooms, which was the room that we were in right before the elevator, it just makes sense to get this now.
For sure. The vessel fragment is one of 3 parts to create a soul vessel, which just gives us extra soul to carry. We will need to pick up all 9 of those, in addition to all 16 mask shards, which will give us more health. We start with 5 health here.
It's a doozy.
Yeah, we get 4 health upgrades total to end up with 9 masks at the end of the run. We're also going to stop by here to pick up a stag station, which are the game's main fast travel system, which we will be using a lot more later in the run. Oh, right, we didn't even mention grubs. Grubs are this little green, the little green guys.
fellas. know
They're
there's a
great.
consistent way to get around these guys. I do not know it.
If
So I either
Yeah.
damage tank or just wait for him to give me a good attack. And in that case,
Yeah.
it was both.
But there are 46 grubs throughout the game, and we need to save all of them, because the rewards for saving them include percentages.
Yes.
So now we're going to enter the Crystal Peak, which is a very pretty area, but is also very cycles-based and very easy to snowball and have things go extremely poorly.
Now be a
Especially
good
for
time.
shorter categories, there are a lot of damage tank-based stuff, which makes things really awkward.
Movement, please.
Oof.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
take the time here to full heal because this grab coming up is one of my least favorite in the run.
That's fair.
Because this spike gauntlet is not fun. So I'm gonna do the slow strat.
Is there a good time for donations?
We could go through some donations now, yeah?
Yeah, well, we only have one, but it's a pretty good one. We have $50 from Code Gorillas. It's the things loaded up correctly. Yeah, sorry, technical difficulties with.
All good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just gonna reset the room.
Yep, yeah. So we have $50 from Code Gorilla, saying, "Oh no, it's a fantastic game, and it has been a fantastic run so far. One of these days, I need to get to playing it again." We put $5 towards saving the nailsmith, which puts it at $5, beating the $1. It's killing it. And also put $45 towards the bonus game.
Nice.
It's actually
Yeah.
worth highlighting what this means. Supermarket Shriek is now $148, needing $150, and I'm probably just going to have to change that.
Yeah. Speaking specifically towards the Nailsmith incentive, the Nailsmith is an NPC who we need to upgrade our nail damage. And one of the, I guess, 3 potential branching paths you can do in a singular playthrough is you can either, after receiving the last nail upgrade, you can either kill the Nailsmith
Which he asks
to
you to
fulfill
do.
he specifically requests to be struck down with the pure nail. You can decide to do that. You can decide to absolutely disrespect him by killing him some other way, or you can let him live, in which case he goes on a journey of self-discovery, meets with one of the other NPCs, and ends up in a nice gay couple. So you can vote to have us either save the Nailsmith or kill the Nailsmith at the end of the run. I'm not personally biased, but I know it's a thing that has strong community opinions.
I always go with save because it saves time.
That is true. Saving the Nailsmith also saves frames.
Because then you have to think about, oh well, what am I going to use to kill the nailsmith? I usually go with
Yeah.
Shade Soul because I'm a heathen like that.
I think the one time I had this come up in a marathon setting, I was asked to save the Nailsmith and elected to do so while faking out
Oh my
a
God.
Nailsmith kill via nail arts, which was fun. Oh no, this is not going well.
I
This
the strat that I use
is
in
a
this
dark
room is It's not the best,
Hmm.
and I've been yelled at for it before, but I don't know any other strats, and I don't have time in the day to learn them.
That is fair.
So I go with my,
yeah,
what was that, 5 C dashes, I think?
yeah, something like that. I remember doing the C-dash strat.
Slow and dangerous.
But yeah, there is an ability that we will pick up, or an item really, that we pick up later that allows us to see in the dark, but we don't have it, so we have to memorize movement for this. I don't believe that comes up in this run particularly.
No, it does not.
But some other runs have much more complex dark room movement.
Lucky for us, we can route this run in such a way that we get Lantern for probably the worst dark room in the game, for Joni's Blessing.
Yeah, probably. Honestly, that room's bad enough in the light.
I have actually died to that room in this run with Lantern.
Yeah.
And it's always,
but here's
it's not fun,
Descending
and it's
Dark.
kind of embarrassing.
Which, Descending Dark, famous for its copy pastas. Use this to stop dying to bosses or something.
Why are you dying to bosses? Just use D-Dark. D-Dark gives you iframes. And I don't know the rest of it. And I don't care to know the rest of it.
Someone in chat probably has the full pasta.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure Mayo has
but
it.
yeah.
I see you, Mayo.
Now we are going to pick up the Dream Nail, which is, I guess, the main story ability. This allows you to access the Dream Realm, where a lot of major progression for the story happens, and a lot of extra, some optional bosses, which we will be fighting.
Yes, we'll actually see one of those coming up in a couple minutes here.
Yep. There we go. There's the deer pasta.
It's a great pasta.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dream Nail is the ability
that
lets us beat the game.
That too, yeah. Because we're not on a patch where we can skip having Dream Nail to beat the game.
I still can't believe that that's actually a thing.
Yeah, there is a very specific patch of the game that was the latest release for all of 45 minutes before Team Cherry realized that it was horribly broken, but lets you do some wild stuff.
It brings the low percent all glitches route down to 1%.
1%, which is very funny.
I'm gonna heal, because we have to deal with some double damage enemies here.
Yep. Seems reasonable.
Gonna get some soul off this guy. Do a little slide move there. And here's an interesting part of this patch that you won't see on other ones. You can C-dash through these elevators without activating them.
That feels wrong.
It does. But it's really fun for Flower Quest later.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Iframes did get changed on D-Dark in later patches. Specifically that you lose iframes when doing other animations after a D-Dark, I believe, is the
I think it's the D-Dark.
And you also can't, stack them?
Yeah, so queuing up another D-Dark removes the iframes from the previous D-Dark.
Yeah.
So just then, we picked up one of the best charms in the game, the Shaman Stone. And what Shaman Stone does is it increases the damage that our spells do And specifically for Vengeful Spirit, it increases the size of the hitbox by a substantial amount.
Yeah. Shaman Stone is the one charm picked up in any percent runs. It's picked up in most full game runs because it is, simply put, the best damage increase you can get. And it's remarkably cheap. We also talked to another shopkeeper, Sly, there, who we will need to pick up various things from, including the lantern that we mentioned earlier. And next, the Elegant Key, which will allow us to enter the upgrade to our Vengeful Spirit.
So currently, Vengeful Spirit, without Shaman Stone, does 15 damage. We're about to pick up an upgrade that, with the addition of Shaman Stone, increases the damage to 40 per
And
cast.
in addition to that, the hitbox of Shade Soul, the upgrade to our Firewall, allows it to sometimes multi-hit enemies for even more damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
We love Shade Soul. Just gonna scroll my notes, which I forgot to do earlier. And so I mentioned this earlier, but we did all of that without taking another bench, so that we could quit out back to this bench, which is right before Elegant Key, and I forgot to put Shaman Stone on. I'm going to do that right now. But this is the door that the Elegant Key opens, which is why we kept our bench set to that bench specifically for all of that. We're going to fight another Soul Warrior here. We call this one Norman. I don't actually know who came up with that name. Is it Colette?
I don't know. I was told there was an actual explanation for it like a week or two ago, and I've already forgotten what it was. I'm just gonna go with someone decided to call him Norman, and now we all call him Norman, and that's the extent of the joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now we picked up Shade Soul, and we're gonna go fight. We're gonna go through Sanctum for the second time, and we're gonna go fight basically another version of Soul Master.
Yeah, remember Soul Master? This is Soul Tyrant. We heard you liked some Soul Master, so we put some Soul Master in your Soul Master. Yeah, this is the first of a number of dream bosses in the game, which all are effectively upgraded versions of the original boss. So in Soul Tyrant's case, it's just Soul Master, but faster and with more health.
And his shotguns are a bit bigger.
Yeah, and with like slightly larger attacks. This Soul Twister trying to get in our way, but now we can just one-shot it, which
We have
is
Shade Soul.
something I wish we could do normally, but you know, we make do. Skip through Hellroom because we popped in and got the lever.
Which, admittedly, even without that lever, with Shade Soul, it makes that room a lot more tolerable.
For sure.
By the way, you remember the bonus game incentive?
Yeah.
BTF Watson donated $2. I just had to do it.
Let's
I finished
go.
it off. Yeah, I decided to finish it off.
Nice.
There's still plenty of good incentives up for grabs.
Always happy to see more runs.
Yeah. Still the bid war for saving and killing the Nailsmith. There's adding stuff to land. There's laundry hamper theory as a for rumor. There's a player color bid war, and of course there's plenty of prizes up for offer.
your stagger there.
Yeah. As you can see, Tyrant teleports around a lot, oftentimes at a speed with which you can't actually get any hits in before he moves again.
Yep.
Most of your damage here is through getting double hits off Shade Soul while he's moving away from you. Which, thankfully, half the attacks are easy to time that for.
And we got the good
sometimes get it
RNG
off.
on the second phase.
Yep, phase 2, we're able to just annihilate with D-Darks.
He can spawn either on the ground or in the air. When he's on the ground, you can spam D-Dark. When he's in the air, you have to alternate nail hits and Shade Soul casts, and it can kill you very quickly if you get bad RNG with the orbs that he throws at you.
Yeah, but luckily we got the good spawn.
Yes.
So now we get to put out to our bench after picking up Essence, which is the other main resource here. We have a few reasons we need Essence. Mainly it's for the Seer upgrades, which are both percentage and also unlock other percentage. We also will be using them for one of our other fast travel systems later.
It allows us to teleport, basically.
Yeah.
And you'll see that coming up here in a few minutes.
We're going to stop by Lem again to sell some more items that we picked up. And then we're going to head down into the sewers. The Royal Waterways, probably at least top 2 for least favorite area among players, depending on your feeling with spiders, whether this or deepness is worst.
Yep.
But
for most people, it's the noise with waterways. Which you're about to see. They're not pleasant.
This game has incredible sound design, and sometimes that leads to things being extremely unpleasant. For example, here in the Flukes area, this whole place sounds absolutely awful.
Isn't that just lovely?
Yep, so many noises. We just love noises here.
Okay, and it was actually somewhat kind to me today. Normally I get hit about 3 or 4 times in that section.
Yeah, it's very easy to just die in that room accidentally. And then here's the boss of the area, the Flukmarm, who, due to weirdness with the top of her hitbox, we're able to do a dive on top of Flukmarm that never actually lands, so we just get infinite damage there and kill her.
Yep. But now we have probably the most broken charm in the game, which is Fluke Nest.
Undoubtedly.
It's still broken, even after King Carrie tried to fix it.
It's broken in different ways on every patch.
Yes.
But it is an upgrade to our Shade Soul, our Fireball, in that it turns your Fireball into a bunch of tiny flukes that all have their own hitboxes and deal their own damage. It turns the damage numbers from a base 40 to, I believe, 112 on this patch.
If all the flukes connect, yes, it's 112.
Yeah, it's a lot of damage. And it also doesn't count in the same way for hits for stagger counts and stuff. It does weird things to some enemies, and on some bosses just doesn't deal damage. I can't explain all the intricacies of the way Fluke Nest works.
I don't know a person who can, except maybe
Basically, this will allow us to do a bunch of quick kills on a number of bosses that we couldn't do otherwise, including hopefully the Dungeon here.
I missed it.
Unfortunate. Yeah.
I was too late on the whatever it's called.
On the nail hit there.
Yeah.
At the end, yeah.
So I unstaggered him. So now we're just gonna do that. Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm pretty low health for this next section.
Oh, that's really awkward, yeah.
I was not thinking about that. But I'm probably
Yeah,
gonna
so
take this opportunity
this part of the run
to get some
is a
soul.
little risky.
We're about
Because
to
right
come up.
after this, we have to do a bunch of tricky skips.
Yeah, there's a series of fairly precise skips, so I'm going to... Luckily there's a convenient enemy up here that I can just pogo a bunch and kill. I said
Yeah.
pogo a bunch and kill. Thank you.
But yeah, the next item that we're going to pick up is Isma's Tear, which allows us to swim in acid. And normally fighting Dug Defender would
first
allow
try.
us to hit a lever that would eventually let us go around through waterways to get here. But instead we're just going to hop into this spike tunnel, skip in, do some extra acid skips,
the dash.
and
That help was in my way. I got the spike tunnel first try, and then I screwed up the easy acid skip.
yeah.
Nice.
And we're just going to enter
Think of the
Isma's
fall in my
Tear
way here.
through the back door. These skips are not the
There we
most
go.
difficult, but they're fairly precise and it's very easy to just snowball and go wrong with them if nerves are getting to you. I have lost time to Isma's skips before.
As have I.
And especially after the Dung Defender fight, which does have a damage tank in it for the quick kill. And if you mess up the quick kill, you can take
As you saw,
extra
I
one.
took extra damage.
Yeah. Into this section, which optimally has 2 damage tanks, I believe, because you can also get early control off picking up Isma's Tear itself.
I don't go for that because I
and
do not know how the
has-
physics of forms works at all.
Yeah. But it's still at least 1 guaranteed damage tank. And with these enemies and these skips, it's very easy for things to go wrong. But we are through it.
Yes. So now we're gonna go fight another couple bosses and pick up every time. I either get that guy hits me, or I make it through
Or you
cleanly.
get through. Yep. That C-dash is a pain.
Yes. But now we're about to go pick up the double jump ability, which is a lot of fun. Ooh.
Yes. The Monarch Wings, probably my second favorite movement option. Just in terms of the way it changes how you're able to go through rooms optimally. An interesting thing with this game's double jump is that for the first few frames of the animation, it actually dips downwards. So you lose height before you gain height, which makes things a little awkward.
Mm-hmm.
And there are ways to counteract that, but it's also not something that's really considered human viable at the moment.
Yeah, there's only one person that I know of that consistently gets them and goes for them.
There are a few runners who do insta-wings, but for the most part it's not something that people take into account for movement right now.
Yeah.
Which will almost certainly change. Like, the amount of development, even recently, into any percent, a category which for a while had probably the most stable run, or like the most stable routing for any category on the main board.
Yeah, I think the recent developments to any percent are the first ones that I've seen in the almost 2 years I've been running this game.
I think when I joined the community, like the only other major thing was like getting early control at Mantis Claw. And then since then, it's been nothing. And now they've rerouted the category like significantly. which is really cool to see because Hollow Knight's like it's over 5 years old now, but there's still a lot of activity. It's like obviously not a particularly old Switch game, but it's one that really still feels new in terms of us discovering skips and discovering movement and rerouting.
Especially going back to like old strats that we thought were slower, but turns out they are actually faster. We just didn't have like good enough timing tools, and now our timing tools are pretty accurate.
Yeah. Shout outs to the people who make mods for this stuff and like debug mod and timing, and also shout outs to the rando community because there's a lot of like movement stuff that gets found because of like people messing around with things in rando or people just trying stuff out, and it's really cool to see.
Of course, it needs to go without saying that a lot of the stuff isn't marathon safe for one of the longer categories, so...
Yeah, for sure. And like a lot of that stuff will apply to shorter categories instead of here. But like there's a lot in Hollow Knight as a speed game, and I won't always recommend it because it's also got its fair share of messy code. But it's really enjoyable.
So that was Lost Kin and Broken Vessel. Broken Vessel is what gatekeeps the wings pickup here. And then Lost Kin is its dream variant. And Lost Kin, if you've ever fought it casually, is a pretty hard boss. It's fast and often you can't really predict its movements.
And also the enemies it spawns means that healing is less of an option.
Yes.
Which is the main thing, I think, which makes Lost Kin a difficult boss casually.
But
thankfully Fluke Nest makes things much easier because it's such a wild damage upgrade. And the only reason we take it off here is because the next boss, Failed Champion, the dream version of False Knight, is invulnerable to flukes.
For whatever reason, there are some bosses in this game that flukes just don't damage.
Yeah. And which bosses that is change depending on patch.
Yes.
For example, the final boss for the base ending of the game doesn't take damage from flukes on 1.5 patches.
It also doesn't take damage from flukes on patch 1114, which arguably has the most broken flukes. Because not only does it do an obscene amount of damage at 144 per cast, it can also kill dude. So it's broken in terms of overpowered, and broken in terms of actually broken. It just doesn't work the way it's supposed to. But yeah, Fluke Nest, it's a very interesting charm. Let's put it that way. But before we go fight Failed Champ, we have to go pick up another charm here. And you may have noticed I opened this shortcut earlier on my way to False Knight. And that is, so we don't have to do it here. So we're just gonna do this Aspid Arena here real quick.
Again, Shade Soul makes quick work of most enemies. I find it funny that on older patches, those enemies outside the arena just hang out.
Yeah, they just chill.
They get instantly killed on more recent patches as soon as you start the arena, which is also funny.
Yeah, because you'll have those two acids just chilling outside, and then the gates close and they explode.
Yep.
There's an exploding enemy
They
up
didn't
here.
even know what hit them.
I'm gonna heal up
Yeah.
one real quick.
Just in case.
Yeah. Because there's an exploding enemy right there that if it's in the wrong spot, it will hit me. And explosions in this
Just-
game do 2 damage
Yep.
when you're unovercharmed. 4 if
And-
you are overcharmed.
Like, optimally, we just take that risk, but there's not really much reason to right now.
Yeah. Luckily, I got good RNG with the enemy spawns, and I could just do the C-dash off the wall without any issue.
Yep. And here's Failed Champion, who is False Knight, but faster, with bigger shockwaves on attacks, and double damage. This fight is awful casually.
I had to cheese it.
Oh yeah, I ultimately cheesed it by hiding in a corner and killing it with minion charms.
Yep, that is exactly what I did. That
Thankfully,
was a suggestion that the wiki had for it. Am I gonna get the glitch again?
Oh yeah,
Not even gonna
that's
risk
gonna
it.
do the thing. Yeah, but the his mace weapon has a hitbox in this fight, which we're able to use to get extra damage out of Shade Sword. So especially during this, we get to effectively skip the second and third phase because we do triple damage with Shade Sword here, ideally. And there it is. Hitless failed champ. Love to see it.
That's also a thing that can happen with those rocks. And there's
I have never seen that in my life.
there's actually a clip in the Discord of another runner just getting womboed by those rocks and dying. And it was funny and
wild.
unfortunate.
I did not know that was a thing that existed.
Yes.
But yeah, now that we have 1,000 essence, we're going to really quick head back to the resting grounds where we picked up the Dream Nail, talk to the NPC who gave it to us, and pick up the Dream Gate.
Yes. Dream Gate.
And the Dream Gate is the aforementioned teleportation system.
Yes. But it's not a free system. You do have to pay for it with essence. So first we're just going to do some mashing simulator. And you can start to see with like Lem and the Seer, like where all the time save comes in just from having the language set to Chinese. Because these text boxes scroll really slowly in English. Now we have the Dream Gate. So now we're on our way to encounter our first Dream Warrior, which are different than the Dream Boss variants that we've been fighting these
Yeah,
their
these
own
are
separate entities.
these are also bosses to fight and gain essence from, but they're a lot simpler in terms of bosses. Most of them have one, maybe two different kinds of attacks. These are basically flavored as former warriors that ended up dying at some point, and we can basically show them the hubris of thinking they were still alive when really they weren't.
I forgot to hit the lever.
Oh no.
Oops.
There's a shortcut there that we need to hit a lever from below earlier, and we didn't. It's fine. We can just go the long way around.
Yeah. It's not a huge deal. Basically, we're just trying to get to this elevator.
Yeah. We go back to the other elevator in the game. Oh right, you can't just C-dash in here because that's such a weird thing to have changed. Again, it's, as we've already brought up, the specifics that get changed between patches are often very strange.
Like they rolled a dice or something.
Yeah. Which thing is going to annoy people who play this game the most? They usually take the second option out of those. It could be worse. But we're gonna just head back into city proper on the right side of the map this time. Pick up this vessel fragment, which will give us a full soul vessel. And then we're gonna go say hi to Hornet again.
Assuming I don't die, which I have actually done on the split before.
Yeah, let's hope to avoid that here.
Yeah. Just gonna kill these enemies for safety and for a little extra geo. Because the geo in this route does get kind of tight at times.
Yeah, we're gonna pick up this stag station for use later, and we're going to head over to the far right and the Kingdom's Edge, where Hornet has been waiting for us for a while. I don't know, it's been like 45 minutes. Hopefully she brought a snack. I don't know.
Now, I know we've been talking about...
the other bosses we've had variants of, she gets faster and with more HP and more annoying.
Yes, more Shaws. Now, I know we've been talking a lot about how much damage Fluke Nest does and how it's just kind of busted. But there's a little quirk about the Hornet 2 fight on this patch, and that the area where she spawns in and starts talking to the knight, it has a lingering hitbox that absorbs flukes and does not do damage. So on average, it's faster to just use Shade Soul and G-Dark and not flukes, because if she hangs out on this right side, your flukes aren't going to do much damage.
That's completely on brand for Fluke Nest.
By the way, I just like to say that we haven't had any donations. I want to see the bid war pick up, and I want to see some really bad nail puns.
Oh god.
$1 donation input the bid war and get me to read out a bad pun. I will enjoy it. Maybe they won't.
I'm here for some bad pun reading.
I do love me some bad puns.
I mean, I won't complain about good puns too, but people don't tend to have those as much.
That's true. People have puns that they think are good, but aren't actually good.
And now we've entered the husk of her dad's former body and become the king. I am not really joking with that statement. That's kind of how it plays out in lore.
Yeah.
But with the King's Brand, we're now able to access the Abyss, which is an extra part of the Ancient Basin, where we pick up our double jump, which will allow us to pick up another ability, the Shade Cloak, which is our dash, but with iframes on a cooldown.
Yes.
It's also where our character was born, created. I don't remember. Don't ask me to explain the lore of this game.
Long story short,
make up stuff that people should not listen to.
Long story short, this area is full of the dead bodies of our hundreds of thousands of siblings.
Yeah, and also their shades, because they also have shades.
That just didn't stick to their bodies.
Also, this room is absolutely massive. And climbing back up it is quite a thing. That's mainly seen in all skills runs for full game runs, and the Abyss climb itself is an individual level movement run. Shoutouts to Insomnia for recently bringing that under 29 seconds somehow. I don't know where exactly she found like half a second of time save in that room,
right.
But
watching Abyss climb ILs,
yeah.
Just watching people zoom up that room is amazing.
It's something else.
You'll see.
Unfortunately, we don't get to do that quite in the same form here because we have Dreamgate, so we can just get out.
Yeah. We'll see a variation of it later when we pick up the Void Heart. But that's a different climb because it adds platforms, I believe.
I believe it's that it removes some platforms or moves them around somewhere. I don't remember exactly, but it's very like
The platforms are different and it's a lot darker, and there are no enemies. So kind of the same, kind of different. All that fun stuff.
very, very cool thematically in both cases. But yeah, now we've picked up all our abilities, so we're just going to have ourselves a run around this map and clear out every area.
And the first thing we're going to do here is pick up what is technically a combat ability, but we use it more for movement, and that is the Cyclone Slash.
Cyclone Slash, my beloved. Cyclone
I do
Slash
love
is
Cyclone
another
Slash.
animation that uncaps our fall speed. And we use this to drop down areas similar to how we've used inventory drops, but one thing to note is that opening your inventory resets your fall speed to 0, whereas Cyclone Slash doesn't reset your fall speed, it just uncaps it from already being at max, or wherever you are at fall speed. So for some shorter areas, you will want to be using Cyclone to drop, and in longer drops, you will want to use inventory.
I'm just collecting some soul here for another Dream Warrior I'm going to have to fight here in a second.
Fight is a bit generous, but yeah. We will be saying hi to Corp here.
And earlier it was mentioned the reason why we don't upgrade the nail early in the run is because it increases the health of these Dream Warriors, sometimes to absurd levels.
Yeah, but because we have our nail at base damage, we're able to annihilate these with spells. Right, I do really enjoy max completion runs getting to use these varied movement tag, right? Like Cyclone drops, which are seen in all skills for movement somewhat, but mainly something that you only really notice for your movement in 1XX categories, and I find it really fun to see a lot of like movement for stuff that we don't see otherwise.
And we were mentioning control earlier in the run. For some reason,
Right.
ending C-dash into that vessel fragment just gives you control back. Normally I would have been floating in the air, doing the
It's
fragment
that one
collection.
specifically too, isn't it?
Yes. And that is the
'cause I
only
know,
one it happens
you
with.
can also use like Cyclone and Cyclone into it, and you will just slide
Yes.
on other patches. I know 106 does that, and it's very funny.
Should I show off
But now we're
Helicopter
going
Knight before entering Black Egg?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We got a Helicopter Knight. But here we skip up to this elevator that you're only supposed to see from the Crystal Peak entry. But we're here now anyways. And we're going to clear out the rest of Peak, which isn't that much, but
Yeah, we got a couple of
That's
boss
very
fights
fast
and some pickups. I was just slightly too low there. And you may have noticed that there were 2 grubs in that room. Except there weren't. There was only one. The other one was fake.
the other one was us gaslighting you. No, that's a grub mimic. There are 3 areas total where grub mimics show up, and that is, I think for some people, the first. I imagine for most people it's the ones in Deepness that you see first.
I remember casually I broke all of the jars, and I guess I got the slow spawn for all 3 of them, and the grub mimics killed me.
Yeah, that'll happen. but here is the Crystal Guardian, another boss that doesn't take flukes damage, to my
Correct.
knowledge.
Yep, and that's the
So
reason
this
that we
fight's
have Shadesel here
really
instead.
awkward. And then, as is often with the case, as I am only now really properly recognizing, we get to fight a second angrier version. That
Because
deals
you woke him up from
double
his nap.
damage.
And he is angry.
He was just sleeping. Like, come on. Can't a guy have a bit of a break from his job?
No, because I want that bench. Except we don't in this speedrun.
We don't even care about the bench. It's just that we want to.
It's another
Get
case
the
of
percentage.
we're gonna beat you up and steal your money.
Yep.
Twice, in fact.
Yeah, he dropped some change from his pocket, and then we just stole the rest of it too.
Yeah, that was his life
Now we're going
savings.
to head up to the very top of the map in Hallow Nest's Crown, which is a fun little movement section. Not extremely challenging, but the number of enemies that end up being in this area and the kind of enemies that are here make it very punishing. If
It's
things
not
go
as bad
wrong.
on earlier patches because those enemies, the one that I just pogoed off of, aren't nearly as aggressive.
Yeah, on more recent patches, the Crystal Hunters will shoot at you almost instantly, and it's not always possible to react to them. A change that, like, I understand from a design perspective, but also wish didn't happen.
Right. Because on earlier patches, they're kind of a non-issue. Oops.
Yeah.
I'm gonna want to heal after this. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, 'cause you have a bit. Oh. Everything's fine.
Everything is fine. I totally don't have some laser cycles coming up that I don't know how to do without taking damage. Totally not. And now we just see Dosh off the edge of the world.
Yep. This is actually another new thing that was found. Normally we would be using Dreamgate here in Crystal Peak to go from the top back down to this last area that we're gonna do.
It's gonna kill this
Also, I
one.
believe it's faster to save the Crusher Scrub here, right? I don't remember exactly. But I
don't
believe
know.
that was the case. I think that was part of like the reasoning for it being faster, but I haven't been keeping up with it. I've been on a bit of a break. But recently it was found that Z-Dash saves time and lets us go through Peak without using Dreamgate, which was more relevant for other categories, but still does come into play here because, yeah, it's still faster routing.
Alright, we only took 1 damage there.
You do in fact love to see it. So now we're going to pick up Deep Focus and quit out and head down into the crossroads one more time.
Yep, but first, we're gonna finally pick up that lantern we were talking about. So it's a see in the dark.
By the way, I had to donate $1 because I've been receiving donations to raid. Just to and my message, just to hammer the point home about needing bad nail puns or bad smith puns to raid.
I don't even know what to say about those.
And the bad puns. And that one went towards saving the nailsmith. So yeah.
We did sign up for this,
I know.
for better or for worse.
You said you liked bad nail puns, so
I did.
We did.
Sometimes people change their minds.
Ew. That is the thing we're allowed to do.
Here we're gonna collect some of the rewards before saving those grubs. This is also a recent change. Initially, or for the longest time, this was a 2-minute segment near the end of the run where you sat here and got all the grub rewards in one go. But
Oftentimes it was used as a bathroom break.
Yeah, well known as the bathroom break, which I personally never did. But
I did every time.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't want to hand wash Skip. Kidding. But it's faster to use that geo here at this point. So the bathroom break is no more.
Unless you're really quick about it.
We're moving on from that line of reasoning.
Oh no. Okay. I almost missed that. But luckily the fluke bounces.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a quick kill where the boss doesn't even get to spawn in, but it has a hitbox always active in the background. So we can shoot flukes at it from a distance that doesn't activate the fight and kill it from quote-unquote off-screen. Right.
Yeah.
I forget about this guy every time.
Oh, right. There's a guy there on this patch.
Uh-huh. And it, I have lost Flower Quest to that a couple of times.
Oh god, that guy's there during Flower Quest.
Yes.
Why did they put a guy there?
I don't know. I'm just glad they took it away on later patches.
Yeah, me too.
But it's okay. I've been practicing. We now have a fully functional debug mod for this patch, so it lets me set save states and whatnot, and I can actually practice that section with the extra guy there and not have to pretend that he's there.
That would be useful. So now we're in Fog Canyon, also known as the Explodey Jellyfish place.
It's terrifying.
Also known as actual hell. Actually, no. Hell isn't cool enough to be an Explodey Jellyfish place. I don't have actual opinions on this. I'm just saying things because I feel like it.
I just know that I hated that section during my casual playthrough because I made the mistake of taking Grimchild through it.
Oh, I don't think I ever did that, but I did really enjoy hitting jellyfish that I wasn't supposed to and taking a bunch more damage than I should have from it.
Yes.
There's
that one
here
really
we're buying
long
more charms from... Oh, yeah. Here we're buying charms from Leg Eater, and you'll notice we have a bit of a stink. Because for reasons, Leg Eater doesn't ask for as much money if we have Defender's Crest on. I have no clue why, lore-wise. I think he likes the smell.
He likes the smell.
Somehow.
I think it has to do with the kind of bug that it's based off of, the name of which I do not know.
Huh. I will take your word for it.
I just remember reading that on the wiki at one point. Okay, even with flukes, Elder Who is still the most annoying boss in the game.
Yeah, this is Elder Who, Dream Warrior, who also just does teleporting for reasons.
And pancakes. He likes his pancakes.
And also, yeah, teleporting bosses that disappear from the screen are generally not fun.
Yeah.
And Elder Who is one of those. And also randomly teleports off getting hit.
Mm-hmm.
Delightful.
Yeah. He's not the biggest culprit of the random teleports off getting hit, though. We'll see her later.
Yeah, she'll exist, unfortunately. Not for long, but she will.
With flukes, she just kind of pops.
Yeah.
And it's very cathartic as a true ending runner.
That does not surprise me.
That's Thug Thug? Grub Fungal Bouncy.
That, yeah, that sure was a way to handle that grub.
Well, so I have flukes on right now, so hitting the
Oh, right.
three
Yeah.
floating guys becomes a bit
Yeah,
of an
that's-
issue.
Yeah, we're gonna head down here to a fan favorite boss, the Mantis Lords, who most people fight immediately after picking up Mantis Claw, myself included.
Yes, and then cry about it, like I did. Because they're hard with low equipment.
They're much longer and more difficult with low equipment, which you often have at that point. Here, they all die in 2 flukes or less. So it's gonna be a bit less interesting to fight.
I was just hitting those mantises to get full soul.
Absolutely to do that, yep. Just tops. It's really unfortunate. Oh, that's a respawn.
I thought that one hit was going to give me enough soul for a cast, and it did not.
And it didn't. Ugh.
Now we're going to go collect our rewards, one of which involves crippling the Mantis economy.
We just steal their money.
And they let us. They allow it to happen. That was
Yeah.
unfortunate. But we have this nice 620 geo chest, which they just let us take. I set the dream gate, right? About to find out.
Yes, you did.
Yes, good. Okay. It's not the worst thing in the world if I had forgotten to. I would have just put back to Legator Bench.
Is this actually still faster as a dream gate? I feel like there's weirdness because we get Bretta early here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I am going to say that and pretend I want to think about it, and like I do want to think about it, but I'm also not going to actually think about it.
It's not something that I've timed.
Mhm.
So I just kind of do it because I don't know. It looks cool.
Understandable.
Honestly, we probably
Performance
set
factor
the
is underrated.
yeah.
Probably set the Dream Gate in Fog Canyon.
Yeah, and then just climb back up to Fungal Core.
Yeah. So I guess you'd be sitting through the mask animation then.
Oh.
That's not where you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, I was off by like what, a couple of pixels, and
Yeah.
I dashed or I D-darked onto the platform, broke the jelly, broke the explodey thing, and got hit.
Lovely.
Fun times. We love
But
explodey
now
jellies.
Yep. We are now entering the area of the first of 3 Dreamers, which are required to beat the game. The 2 of the Dreamers are guarded by a boss fight, and the 3rd is a large arena that serves very similarly to a boss fight. This is good. If you have heard anything about Hollow Knight speedrunning, there's a good chance it's about Umu being
Pretty much
really
the worst.
frustrating boss. A mix of RNG and cycles. You can't hit the boss for most of the time in the fight. You have to wait until your opportunity. it's a really unique boss, and one that I think has like its cool parts to it, but it's also just not particularly fun to fight naturally either. And in categories, specifically in any percent, it can be huge time loss to mess up Umu, even slightly, and RNG also plays a huge factor in it. Thankfully here, Fluke Nest means we just kill in one cycle, but I've had bad times with Umu. I think everyone has.
Yeah. Especially, as you were saying, in like any percent. And I'd say that low percent has the worst Umu fight. Because you don't have shamans, and you also don't have dash.
No, the low percent Umu sounds awful. I don't get the appeal of low percent, to be perfectly honest. But, you know, to each their own. I recognize that my own taste is a little peculiar.
I could say the same, and specifically with this category. No one else runs it.
Yeah.
By the way, if I don't receive any more donations, I might have to continue making bad nail or smith puns, so yeah.
You go right ahead.
Well, instead, I'm just going to go have a look at the incentives. We still have the save versus kill nailsmith bid war. But we also have for level head choosing the player's color, which is currently being won by Fuchsia with a single dollar donation. And and then we have a number of other incentives, such as the laundry hamper, therapy for Rumu, and aside from all that, we also have a bunch of incredible prizes for offer. So you can get a bunch of games for ridiculously low costs if you win the raffle. But yeah, other than that, back to you.
Alright, so what we're doing now is we're going to back up to Green Path for our second stint to basically clear it out. And this is one of the biggest route deviations from the other max completion categories, in that we actually do this area in the opposite order than what you typically see.
Most full completion categories do this from the top down because we need to come here a lot earlier for one of the DLC quest lines. But Hundo here does not need to do that, so we just come in from the bottom up when we're near it. It may still be faster to do this earlier after Howling Cliffs, as is done elsewhere, but it's neat, and it's cool movement that we don't see elsewhere.
And it means I get light jonies.
True. It means we don't have to do one of the the trickier dirt rooms in the run. I didn't know that was a thing that existed.
Yep, I almost forgot about it until I was like, oh wait. Yeah, for some reason, you can hit that vine platform from the side there, and you don't have to go all the way around.
That's very strange.
Yep, I don't know why it's a thing, but I'm not complaining.
That is often the case with things like this. So
that
here's
was
NoodlesYes. Yeah. Normally she's a lot more frustrating. She has a 35% chance to teleport on every hit, and flukes don't trigger that on this patch, which means that we just cast spells at her and she explodes.
Yep. I think it has to do with the way that flukes are treated by the game, and that they're absorbed.
Yeah.
And not actually hitting the
yeah.
boss.
On later patches, those each fluke
Oh my
counts
God.
as an individual hit, so NoodlesYes has like a 99.98% chance to teleport if you get a full fluke cast in her, and will often teleport multiple times. It's something else, this game.
Really?
And fluke nest.
I did not know that that's how that worked on bitter patches.
Yeah. It's very strange the way they dealt with it, and like honestly not like it's an understandable way. Like that's probably how I would expect to treat it, but it's still very funny in the outcomes it creates. But now we're just gonna go through here. We picked up a few more grubs, and we're going to go pick up our second male RP Great Slash.
But first, we're gonna pick up a charm. We're actually gonna set a dream gate in a somewhat weird spot. We're gonna set it right before this room here, because from the bottom of Green Path, there are 3 ways to get to the top, and one of them is this room, which doesn't have any barriers.
Oh, right, because there's the lever on the other side.
There's the lever on the leftmost path, and then there's the toll in the middle path.
Huh.
Oh wait, I have to get Great Slash first.
Yep.
So eventually,
So this is our only way to properly go up here without losing a lot of time.
well, yeah, for now, that's the thought. I don't actually know. I'm thinking the toll might be fine,
Pull might still be faster.
just because it's less leftward movement.
Yeah.
But
I still feel like just doing this top down is probably going to be better, but I have no idea.
it's one of the problems with running a long category and really only having time to do runs. So I don't really have time in the day to practice. I don't really have time for timing things. So my practice is doing runs.
Yeah, I feel that. That's how it was for me back when I was really running 107. I have since burned out on 3-hour speedruns and do much shorter things. And also started college, so...
Yeah, I am definitely
Yeah.
taking a break from Hundo after this run. I want to go back into... Probably going to go back to All Skills for a bit.
All Skills is good.
It's a nice short run, but you still get to see quite a bit of the game. And I also have to start running NA% again.
Planning on doing the tourney?
Yes, I am.
Gotcha. I don't see myself participating in the 80% tourney that's going to be happening soon. But it looks like it'll be a good time. Because especially with how much 80% has been popping off recently in terms of strat finding and the rerouting, and like the record changing hands multiple times in the past like month. We've almost broken another minute barrier, which will like almost certainly be the last minute barrier broken.
Right. Unless something that...
They said, I guess they said that about 32, didn't they?
I guess they did,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, but that would need a much more significant change.
Yeah. It would need like substantial rerouting or like a new tech being found that lets us skip something.
That would definitely require new speed tech.
Which,
but yeah, like
at this point, with how much the community has dug into like the code of the game, I don't really see happening. But you
It's
never
the
know with this game, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's entirely possible we find something that saves a minute at any percent, but there are only really a couple places that's even feasible. Um, and I feel like, with especially the category being the largest in the game, people have spent a lot of time on trying to find that, if there is anything.
Right.
We'll see. There's always more spaghetti to find.
Yes. Who knows? Maybe someday someone will perfect task walking storage.
Oh,
And we'll
don't.
start seeing that in human runs.
No. I mean, at that point, we just no. Anyways, we're moving on from that thought. I don't want to think about that. Did we get Shape of Un?
No, we didn't. And I was just thinking about that. I set the dream gate, and I didn't actually pick up the charm.
Yeah. Well, at least we do have the Dream Gate there.
Yeah. At least I remember to set it.
Yeah. Just a slight error in exact.
Slight routing error.
movement,
It's okay.
but it's not something that should really cost us.
Nah.
By the way, when's the any percent tournament happening?
I believe the Any Percent tournament is happening at some point in the next month or two, right?
I think it starts at
there-
the end of October.
Yeah, there are specifically 2 tournaments that are going to be happening. One for Any Percent on no major glitches with no patch restriction, which will mostly be run on 1.2.2.1. And then one for Any Percent patch 1.4.3.2 plus no major glitches, which is on the more recent patches of the game because of changes in speed tech, and also because it allows more people to run it for performance reasons, which I believe will be running sometime early next year.
That I'd find out more about it on the Hollow Knight Discord if there is one.
Yes, the Hollow Knight speedrun community Discord is a great place to find stuff for speedruns. Also, generally where the randomizer community is. If you want to get into that, there are people hosting like casual pickup races daily there as well. And yeah, the Hollow Knight community is a good place. Highly recommend. And yeah, I believe that there are a couple channels for the tournament happening there. I will probably be doing commentary there at some point. Noodles has mentioned that they'll be participating. I will not, because I am not particularly a fan of Any Percent as a category. I am not going to be as vocal a speaker against it now, but I still don't find it appealing compared to other stuff.
Alright, so now we're about to pick up the third and final spell. Assuming I can get to the gates.
Now, we have our neutral spell and our down spell, and you may have been asking yourself, what about up spell? I'm trying to make an up dog joke here. It's not working.
I was wondering what you were going for there.
I'm tired, okay? It's fine. It's up spell. I don't know. Look,
What's up spell?
I didn't find what's
Screaming.
up spell indeed. That is naturally what's up for me these days. It is 2022 after all.
I imagine
there we
college
go.
doesn't help
Recovered
much with
it.
that.
Yeah, we're all right though.
That's what my college experience was like. I was an engineering student. I didn't finish.
Yeah, no, I could not. Anyways, speaking of things that are somewhat painful, but that we're going to pretend are fine, this is the Queen's Gardens. This area, these enemies are not fun to deal with.
Yeah, they're kind of awful.
Yeah, and we have multiple arenas of them.
One of which we have to do with Fluke Nest. Which is
Right.
fun.
Yeah.
So much fun.
Yeah. Lovely. If you can't tell, this enthusiasm is sarcastic. I'm explaining the joke because that always makes it funnier. Trust me. I have a degree in comedy.
Well, if you have a degree in comedy, why are you in college?
For a degree that actually gets money.
It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah. We're gonna take a quick dip back to the fungal waste to pick up the spore shroom. Shout outs to Mr. Mushroom, which is an NPC that exists in like the post game for this that you can only talk to with spore shroom, and that like unlocks a secret bonus cutscene thingy. I don't ask me to explain Mr. Mushroom more. I don't even know how much of it exists.
Is there actually lore behind it, or is it just something that Team Cherry thought would be funny?
I think it's mostly funny, but I would not be surprised if there is more Mr. Mushroom in Silksong.
I wouldn't be either, because there's a
it's the other mimic
to be continued.
Yeah, it is. It's very much a like post credits scene thingy. But it's a neat goof.
Yes. We will not be seeing him in this run. Sorry.
Thankfully, no. This is not all achievements. What we did just there was collect a bit of extra essence from a whispering room, commonly known as the dream trees, which are the other main way to collect essence. Because we use essence while dream gating, the bosses that we kill aren't quite enough essence alone, so we only need to collect a bit of extra essence to make up for those dream gates. But we do that here in order to get enough for the final seer rewards later.
And I got myself up to 1511 at the end of that tree, which barring any major disasters, will be enough to finish out the run.
I still can't believe I botched an up spell, the fucking up dog joke, that badly.
Well, you can't have botched it any worse than Team Cherry botched the spell. Because it doesn't work.
Yeah, it sure doesn't. Yeah, Howling Rates has use, and its upgraded spell is actually rather powerful, but we don't get that upgrade for most of the run, and
the reason for that is on earlier patches, the upgraded version of the spell doesn't actually work the way it's intended to.
Yeah, using multiple instances of the spell will cause the spell to not actually work, which is real awkward when you're trying to get multiple casts in a row.
And sometimes even the first cast, only 1 or 2 6 will hit.
Yeah, it's a weird spell,
Yeah,
even when fixed. Right, I forgot you can just stand in grub jars on this patch.
Yes,
Normally
for whatever
they have,
reason, they do not have collision.
Yeah, normally they do have a hitbox there to stop you from just, like, poking your head in without saving the grub.
But they don't deserve to
now-
be free on this patch.
We
It is-
go to the Loodles area.
It is time for Frog.
These enemies are the worst. Did you set a dream gate or no?
Probably not.
It's fine, we have the stag entrance.
Yeah. I've done that in about half of my runs in total.
Oh no.
Because I do all the dream mills on the moss fly there. Because this
And then just,
section is just
like,
awful to do
yeah.
at low HP.
Yeah, for sure. The Loodles have random movement and can often just hit you out of nowhere. And they are choosing to be nice now but you know, it usually isn't the case. I've gone down to 1 HP from full in those 2 rooms alone very many times.
Yeah. It's not uncommon, especially in like true ending, to just die in that room.
Yeah.
Or to get down to 1 HP and then die to Marmu immediately.
Oh.
But now we're gonna go get
I
another
love
drug.
how Fluke Nest makes boss fights simply a combo button sequence.
Pretty much.
It's just very comfortable getting to do fighting game inputs to kill a boss.
It's comfortable on bosses. It makes the rest of the game kind of annoying.
That is true. It's generally really awkward for arenas and stuff.
Oh no.
And
that's a case of hazard respawn glitch.
Yeah, so there are 2 kinds of damage you can take from enemies and like some projectiles and stuff, or projectiles and some background objects, and then from hazards which respawn you. If you take damage into a hazard, you immediately lose iframes, which means that you can then be hit like 3 or 4 times in a row out of nowhere. It's lovely. Totally a thing that should exist.
This is my least favorite grub in the game.
The fact that you can be hit into hazards and take 2 damage alone is rough, but the fact that you can then immediately be hit again is even more frustrating.
I have died in Pantheon 5 NoodlesYes to getting hit into a hazard respawn, getting hit into a hazard, respawning, getting hit into another hazard, respawning, getting hit into another hazard. 6 damage immediately, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I think my one God Home ending run ended up dying to P5 NoodlesYes because I got womboed by that.
I was a bit late on the...
And here is Trader Lord, who is very technically a boss. Like,
he's a boss on patch.
Yeah, as you can see, he kind of explodes here on later patches. They added a bunch of HP to Trader Lord, made him do double damage, and gave him a couple extra attacks. Here he's basically a glorified Mantis Trader. But now we get to go say hi to our mom, and you know, that's nice.
And she gives us, from my understanding, what is part of her soul. Literally.
Part of, yeah, kind of. It's weird.
I don't understand it. I don't try to understand it. I just play the bug game.
Look, I can't pretend I have a normal family relationship, but I assume it's also not like this normally.
Yeah.
I would hope. Anyways, now we are going to head downwards into Spider Town, aka Deep Nest. But actually, one of the rooms we enter is literally labeled Spider Town in the code, which is delightful.
Isn't it like Distant Village?
It's Beast End specifically. That's just rude.
I'm gonna chalk that one up to a skill issue.
I mean, you could also just blame hitboxes. We usually do around here.
You know, you're not wrong. Blame the game. Blame the controller, because it's never your fault.
A skilled worksman blames his tools, remember. Not Shotty.
True.
By the way, just like to refer to the incredible prizes on offer, where we have multiple packs for people to potentially win, ranging from the $5 the Friends Pack with a minimum of $5 donation, you could be in the running to win $24 worth of prizes in Monster Sanctuary and Yoku's Island Express, all the way up to a $25 donation, potentially netting you the grand prize of Marauders, Serpent Rouge, Sweet Transit, Sunday Gold, and Timesia, $90 worth of games. All great potential donation prizes you can get. In addition, we have.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go on. Go on.
No, you're good.
Yeah. There's also a bunch of incentives. We still have the Say versus Kill the Nailsmith bid war going on, and after that we have. And after that, we have a few bid war. Have another bid war for selecting the player color and several incentives, including ones for Rumo, Subnautica. There's plenty of reasons to donate, as well as the good cause that we have going on.
For sure. With that, we have just absorbed our second Dreamer, Hera, and now we are going to clear out the rest of the nest. This place it's time. I don't think I can call it fun.
It is.
I mean, like,
one of the places ever.
From a movement perspective, this area is very fun to go through. Legitimately, I do enjoy some of the deep nest movement. But it's also pretty rough at times.
Agreed, yeah. And sometimes you'll just get blocked by invisible walls. I don't know if you noticed, but I jumped right after the devout, before the grub.
Oh,
There's an invisible little lip right there that you can't walk past.
Huh.
For some reason, it's a thing that exists. I don't know why.
Today I learned.
And here's the thing, it's not there all the time.
It's probably based on the devout hitbox in some way.
Maybe, or there's a scene there that's just weird.
Yeah, anyways, that was Galen, supposedly. Was too busy exploding him to notice.
You know what?
Now we're gonna head up here to pick up the tram path. The tram is our last main form of fast travel. There are two specific trams throughout the game. They only travel to very specific areas, but one of the areas we can't access without the tram, unless we were using no-clip, which we are not doing in this run. This is not.
This is a no major glitches run.
Yeah. One thing I think I vaguely mentioned once or twice, but this is under the no major glitches rule set, because even though some of the stuff we've done definitely seems like breaking the game, there's multiple other layers to it. I cannot recommend enough looking at 112% all glitches. I may be biased in having the record for that category, but it really is something else in terms of the things that happen. But the no major glitches rule set basically forces you to play the game, but fast. It's not a perfect rule set, but...
And there are some controversial rules within that rule set.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know if I've gotten an instance of it yet, but really the only, I don't know, minor glitch that we use in this run is wall plane storage, in a form that used to just be called gate storage.
Yeah, basically the game isn't great at removing you from the wall planing state, which we can use to do various forms of extra movement. which can be used to skip items, and because of that, the rules around Walkling storage were mostly created in a time before we really understood its full potential, and as a result are really awkward in implementation.
Turns out it's a lot more broken than we originally thought.
Yeah, and a lot more widely usable.
And you can get it basically anywhere, technically.
Yeah. I mean, it's not human viable to do everywhere, but it's useful in a lot of spaces that you...
if you want to see examples of crazy Walkling storage that technically fall under the no major glitches category or rule set, you should check out the any % tasks by Destructive Cynicism.
Yeah. CC spent a while on that task. Hollow Knight tasking tools are existent but not amazing at the moment. Or actually, they've improved a lot recently, but it's still a very small scene because it's a bit tough to get into.
Mm-hmm. They're not great for the later patches of the game. For 1.1221, they're pretty stable.
Yeah, it's also just like a bit resource intensive. But yeah, the any % task is really good. Shout outs to Yarlik for the other main tasks of full speedrun categories, including Zero Geo, which does not just not spend Geo. You just have to avoid all Geo pickups. It's very entertaining to watch some of the tricks he pulled off for that. But yeah, task stuff is still a bit underexplored just because of the barrier to entry. But it's been really cool to see some of the stuff that people have put together.
Yes,
especially in terms of IL runs.
And if you want to see an absolute glitch fest, check out the zero jump input task that was just finished recently.
Shout outs to Krythom for completing Hollow Knight without pressing the jump button once. It's something else and is mostly incomprehensible, but it's also rad as heck.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And you get to watch Tick-Ticks walk for something like 20 minutes.
It's 20 minutes of sitting in a spot waiting for an enemy to move around an area. Anyways, that's Nos. Nos is another enemy who has a hitbox that spawns before actually starting the fight, so we're able to do most of the damage to it before it actually starts. We can't do all of it because otherwise the gate would never open and we wouldn't be able to get through here.
And we're also just, with the equipment that we have, physically unable to do all of the damage.
Yeah, we're not quite able to do that. But even if we could, we do want to actually start the fight so the game registers that the fight is finished. Because things would get really awkward otherwise.
Yep.
And now we are going to head through the right using the tram. First to make a quick stop in the Ancient Basin.
So you'll notice that after the Nos fight, I picked up an item. It's called Pale Ore, and what Pale Ore does is it lets us upgrade our mail. So we're just going to take a quick detour, go free a grub, and go pick up another Pale Ore. And get hit a couple times.
It's fine, probably.
I mean, it is. We gotta quit out here.
Look, I have to keep up some suspense.
I am not the biggest fan of suspense, to be honest.
You know, that is understandable. But yeah, we pick up this Pale Ore, and then we go back to the tram, and I believe we're headed over to the Hive now?
Not yet. We're gonna go fight Markov first, and get Dash Slash and Quick Slash.
Right, we do that earlier.
Nice.
So now we're going back to the Kingdom's Edge, but we're going to show up from the bottom as opposed to over the top with King Station, like we did earlier to fight Hornet. This is through an area that we can't access without the tram, and so we're going to be breaking a wall that lets us come back here later, in theory. This climb is a very weird one to optimize. I think I spent a while on it, like, back when I was running 1XX, and the enemy spawns make it very strange.
Yeah, those blue flies can, the big brown fellas can spawn in some pretty weird places.
Their movement is very strange, yeah.
Now would be a good time to go through donations if I had any to go through. Yeah. Remember
yeah,
we
got
had
some pretty tame movement here.
Yeah.
the save versus kill with the Nailsmith bid war is still continuing and will probably continue until the end of the run, which will be how long do you think? Before we reach that point.
We
Probably another
still have like
hour
an
and
hour
10
before
minutes.
that. The run
For the
itself
full
is
run.
early, yeah. The Nailsmith thing will probably be half an hour from now, which
Cool.
is when we should call it.
Yeah, that's a fair estimate.
What is it
Yeah.
lead at the moment?
Saving Nailsmith is at $6 and killing is at $1, which is isn't saving supposed to be faster?
Saving is faster, yes.
Yes.
Saving is
It's a couple
faster
frames
and
faster.
also generally
Okay.
more popular.
Save versus so I guess it's save versus troll the runners as well.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Some people like that chaos.
And on that, we still have the numerous prizes up for offer, where you can get a games. Yep, you can take over whenever you want.
Oh, did we forget to put on flip?
I forgot to swap it back.
Gotcha.
But that's alright. It's not that big of a time difference there.
Yeah, these fights are still pretty simple. You were mentioning prizes?
Yep, Team 17 has offered a wide variety of game packs up for offer, and by donating from $5 to $25, you can enter a wide variety of different. You can get enter draws for a wide variety of different game packs.
And we've now collected our last nail art. From I don't remember which one this is. I can never remember the difference between the two.
This is Toro.
Okay. Now we're just going to go down through a couple of dive floors to pick up a charm and a crab.
Quick Slash, my beloved. Quick Slash, as the name suggests, lets you do nail swings faster. It's not something we use here, but for Pantheons, which are the game's boss rush DLC, Quick Slash is
Not good, not good.
probably the best turn. Oh, that's not the place you want to be taking damage.
It's okay, we gotta heal. Oh no.
Oh, no. This
There we go.
this small bit is,
That is one of the worst jumps in the game.
yeah, those, the spikes are not kind. They changed the hitboxes on spikes generally for later patches, so that they're
anything considered
not
a
quite
spike
effective
tunnel
for their hitbox.
got a bit more lenient in later patches.
Yeah.
I'm going to swap these. And now we're gonna go through the hive, which is a terrifying place.
Yeah, the hive full of bees. Insert not the bees gif here, etc., etc.
Also, fun fact, those little bees do not take Dream Nail knockback, and they can just decide to kill you. And it's a great time.
Know that.
I don't know if it's a thing on current patch, but it's a thing that has gotten me killed on this patch.
They definitely take knockback. More recent patches. Yeah. This area has weird enemy stuff and these breakable walls that are really awkward with Fluke Nest because Fluke Nest doesn't break walls.
And neither does and Wraith doesn't break these walls for some reason.
What? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Team Cherry sure did make this video game.
They sure did.
Additionally, this hive may look different from what you're used to if you have played this game before recently, because they buffed it in one of the DLC updates, such that those bees aren't completely minuscule, and that there would also be a boss here. We don't have a boss here, so we just get to pick up Hive Blood, which is the term in the end of this area.
Even though the hive is technically not as bad on these patches,
it's generally considered easier here. Yeah.
The drill bees still suck.
Yeah, the large bees deal double damage on recent patches as well, as opposed to here where they only deal one. But on every patch, the hive is not a fun time.
And I don't have enough soul.
No. That's awkward.
Whoops. Wasn't paying attention to that.
At least we can cyclone the last one.
Yes. Probably could have cycloned the first one if I had thought about it. Or the second one, actually. The first one was when I realized I didn't have soul. Yeah, so that was the hive.
And now
we're now on our
going
way
out of the hive, back up to Kingdom's Edge, and we're going to head from here over to City, while also dealing with the Collector. The Collector is I don't remember the lore, but the Collector has been the one trapping grubs in jars.
Yes.
For reasons? There were probably reasons.
I don't remember.
I think they were like originally part of like some of the experiments that also created
also volume warning for headphones
our
users.
character, but it's weird and complicated, and I really am not the person you should ask for the details on that. But the Collector is yet another boss that takes damage to flukes, sort of.
You have to be careful with it though, because on older patches you can actually break the fight.
Yeah, so the Collector's health will sometimes underflow, such that it goes below 0 HP with flukes, and because you pass the 0 HP threshold with something that it didn't trigger as a hit, the fight will just not move on to the next phase where it ends. and you just have a collector that will not die, and you have to restart the fight.
Yeah.
Not fun times for anybody involved. Even
Especially not
the
needless
collector.
to
I
fight.
don't think immortality is that great.
Especially when you're technically already dead.
I mean, or like not really alive to begin with. I don't know. This guy's got a lot going on.
Bastard? No.
There we go.
So there is a quick kill that you can get on the collector that I missed because I missed an intentional damage tank, which would have given us control back.
Yeah, as mentioned before, taking damage when you don't have control gives you control again. And you can use this on some bosses to do what's known as a screen skip, where the animation that freezes you in place, if you take damage from the boss at the same time as that starts, or right after that starts, rather, you get control back and are able to do damage early.
I got walking storage the wrong way.
Oh yeah, that'll happen. Gates are weird.
Yeah. And then we can just hit that grub through the wall with dash slash.
Yeah.
It's like one of the only grubs that you can hit through the walls normally on any patch.
Yeah.
So I stopped that C dash a bit too early, but it's okay.
And now we're back in city one more time. And here we're gonna go fight the bane of any percent runners, the Watcher Knights, and they're going to just explode.
Yes.
It's
pretty great. And as someone who has run any percent, it's pretty cathartic.
it does feel good.
Like, even as someone who's run True Ending, which has slightly better equipment than any percent, you get Shade Soul in True Ending. That fight can still get away from you if you're not careful.
For sure. It turns out that each Watcher Knight has exactly enough health to die to 2 casts of Fluke Nest. There are 6 Watcher Knights total. You can technically kill one of them before the fight starts by breaking an object in the room, but this fight goes fast enough here that it is technically optimal not to do that. We are gonna save one more grub real quick before doing that, though.
And that is the last grub, in fact, assuming I didn't miss any.
Based on the auto splits, you should have gotten everything.
Yeah. Well, missing Shape of Line screwed up my auto splits a little bit, but I think I'm fine.
Yeah, I think you got everything now, so we'll see. But yeah, say hi to Watcher Knights for the short time that they're here. Unfortunately, we're not on a patch that can kill Doom, where you get to kill one Watcher and the gate opens and the others are just left to roam free. It's very funny.
And that's what happens when you miss a cast of flukes.
Yeah, you do need to hit every single fluke
Oh,
in order
right,
to
there's
get
another one.
Yep.
I don't know how to count to 6, apparently.
It's fine. We're here to play games and press buttons, not to do math. I have school for that.
Yeah, I did a lot of math as an engineering student. I loved the math part. It was the engineering part that I couldn't get right.
That's a mood.
Legalize, Televator, NMG.
I need to... Well, I don't need to, but I kind of want to route 106 glitched for the sake... Just for the sake of doing that Televator. Because, like, I could do other categories with it too, but...
Right. Maybe one of these days when I go through my glitch art, I'll come back to this category and mess around with it a bunch. Right. So now we have our third dreamer, which means we're approaching the end game section of the run. Collected all of our abilities, we freed all the grubs, fought most of the bosses we're going to fight. Now it's just wrapping some final things up and doing some of the more difficult things that we have to do.
And when's Nailsmith coming up, relatively speaking?
Not for a while.
Yeah, we do
Like
flower
wherever we...
too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so
We do Flower
we're still
Quest and then we do the Coliseum.
yeah, we're about
It's
20 minutes out from closing that, I think,
Yeah.
at least.
So we still have plenty of time to potentially have a
Influence that decision.
hill. Yeah.
Son?
Just doing some more mashing simulator where we sell a bunch of relics to Lem. Also, fun fact, the way that I have this routed, we buy everything from Sly in one go.
Oh, that's delightful.
So it's just mashing A and up on the D-pad. Oh, it's just slightly too low. So this is the Nailsmith. This is who you were all bidding on saving or killing. He's going to upgrade our nail for us 3 times right now. And then he'll upgrade it for the last time in a bit. Hold on. That's a dream gate. Now we're on our way to fight the only boss in this run that is technically DLC. This is the White Defender, who is added in the 1.1 patches or the Hidden Dreams DLC. We don't see the other boss that got added in this patch, unfortunately. Or fortunately, in my opinion.
I think it's a loss to not have Free Prince of, but I can understand that opinion. Truly the one weakness of 106% is that it does not have Free Prince though. But White Defender doesn't stagger, which is normally awkward in that it gives you less time for free heals, but it also means we can juggle him forever.
Unfortunately, I dropped the combo.
Yeah.
It's technically slower with this equipment to juggle the whole fight.
Yeah, it's a lot slower than Fluke's, but it's also
But
a
it's
lot easier.
for the swag and for the swag factor. But it's okay, we got a second shot.
Nice. God, I haven't juggled things for a couple years now. I learned how to do basic juggling, but I didn't really stick with it.
I was in my high school's juggling club.
Oh yeah, no, that was me too.
Alright, so what we're going to do next here is we are going to go, we're going to go see Grub Daddy again, and he's going to give us money as a reward for saving his children. Thank you.
I am going to grab a water really quick. I will be right back.
Go for it. So, Bretta, who we saved earlier, that's her in the background. This is her house. For some reason, she has a plush doll of us. But she also has a mask shard in her house for some reason.
I mean, who wouldn't want a plush doll of someone who saved their life?
I guess that's fair.
I mean, I'd probably ask first, but, like, yeah. I probably would do the same. Or, like, maybe not exactly the same. I'm not sure how I would feel about that specifically, but, you know, I can understand the admiration somewhat.
So this is Grubfather again. This is where we see if we remember to get all the grubs. For the longest time, I was doing my runs kind of stupid, and I didn't have auto splits for all of the grubs. So just about every run, I would forget one.
I have lost multiple PBs to accidentally, not even forgetting a grub, but just not actually hitting the grub jar.
Oh yeah, I've done that before too. And then you go back and think, it's like, which one did I miss? I hit all the jars.
Yeah, I once lost 3 minutes to having to go back for Beast and Grub.
And we did,
in
in fact,
112.
get all of them.
But that is not the case here. And we get the Rubberflies elegy. Next up, just a bit more shopping, a bit more talking to NPCs, and then afterwards, we will have the flower quest. Everyone's favorite. This is not the case. This is
Totally not the most
favorite.
nerve-wracking part of the run.
This is traveling through the map to deliver a flower to the grave of a loved one for the sake of a mask shard, which is why we have to do it here. But you also can't get hit and you can't ride the stag station.
Yes.
So
it leads to some interesting routing. In addition to the fact that we pick up another mask shard along the way.
Which is also in itself in a platforming maze.
That is cycle-based and terrifying.
Yeah. It's very easy to lose many minutes and runs to flower, which is especially terrifying this late into the run, right?
Yeah.
We're already 2.5 hours in. And if you end up messing flower up, you will just lose so much time, right? That is one of the rougher parts about the time investment in runs like this, is that they are actual hours, and often for most runners at least, you don't really have time to get another run going if you end up losing one this late into it.
Yeah. And now we buy the best charm in the game. The Wayward Compass.
Yep, the one that definitely doesn't do absolutely nothing here for us.
Okay. So all of that essence that we were collecting earlier, we're going to use that to fully upgrade our dream nail right now. So more mashing.
Yay. the upgrade to our Dream Nail, the Awoken Dream Nail, only does like one thing, but that one thing is required for us to get the quote-unquote true ending of the game. So it's important.
Yeah, just a bit. And
Out
then
of curiosity, what exactly counts towards 100%? I know
So all of the charms, most of the bosses are percentages. All of the mask upgrades, all of our health upgrades, all of our soul upgrades, all of our nail upgrades count. And then all of the abilities count. Some of the abilities count for 2%, depending on which movement ability it is. Like I believe the double jump is 2%, Mantis Claw, our wall jump is also 2%.
I think
then-
actually all of the movement abilities are 2%.
They might be, I don't remember exactly. But I think that's everything. There are like a couple specific NPC quest things that also count as percent.
and you need to get all of them, or more than, or less than that.
All of them.
For this run, we get all 100%. And for every run that is a quote-unquote 1xx category, we get the max percent.
Because there's, in the other
based on
ones,
the
there's...
patch. There's more percent because of extra DLC stuff. But here we are starting Flower Quest. I think we're probably just going to keep it chill now, let Noodles focus.
That could have been bad.
That, yeah, did not look great.
That was meant to be a Shade Soul, and I accidentally pulled him up.
Yeah, the Howling Raid's not great there. But we made it through. Here's the aforementioned Mask Shard maze. This cycle is not the tightest, but it's absolutely terrifying with Flower on. And as you can see, they're taking it a little slowly just to make sure that we get there without getting hit. Reminder that there's the Jennifer in the other room.
Yep. Just gonna let that thing explode.
Yeah, no need to take chances right now.
Missed that one again.
Oh,
Just gonna
well,
drop through here really slowly.
yeah.
This time I was too far left.
At least it didn't punish us.
True. We just take a nice leisurely stroll through that room.
Yeah. do not want to anger the jellyfish gods. And here we're going to enter the last bit of the trek with Flower into the gardens. These rooms aren't particularly scary, but it is still pretty easy to have things go wrong. Notably with that Petra. Optimally, you don't kill it, you just dash through it with Shade Cloak iframes, but it...
No! Oh, what was that?
What? No!
That is, Oof.
That should not. What?
Well, we get to see all that movement again.
That last room has claimed many a victim.
Yes.
But it's fine. They have more flowers. They told us it was one of a kind, and then they lied about that. Because it would be immensely punishing if that was actually the only flower. You can also deliver the delicate flower to a few other NPCs and get, like, extra dialogue from it. But, frankly, why would you?
I gave it to the Godseeker on my casual file just because I wanted the last ending. Which technically doesn't even count as an ending.
Yeah, that's like barely an ending.
Than I would like to be.
Just taking our time with these explosions. There's no real need to rush it. Fine, we can just say the extra flower was for geo-routing. Because these enemies drop so much cash.
That is what that dive is supposed to look like.
There we go. Puts us directly in the acid at the bottom.
There we go. Second try.
Let's go. First try if nobody noticed.
Exactly. I was just taking it really, really slow. Alrighty, so now that we've first tried Flower Quest, what we're off to next is the Coliseum of Fools, which I need to actually write out charm menuing for this because that was bad.
By the way, just want to ask quickly, when's the nailsmith going? Oh, we have a donation. Oh, wait.
Oh,
Yeah. Sorry for not noticing. I've just been paying attention to a lot of other stuff.
all good.
Yeah, $5. Okay, so we've had $5 donation from Beldridge. No comment, but to save the nailsmith, which
Was
is
it pretty
$10.
safely in the lead? Yeah.
$10 ahead.
Mm.
So that
Yeah.
will be coming to a
That will be
close.
ending after the Coliseum here, so in about 15 minutes,
Yeah, something
depending
like
on, well, ideally like 15 minutes. Hopefully we don't have a Call of Death, which extends things.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, apologies to Veld for not reading it earlier. I was mostly just being silent for the incredible display of skill that we witnessed.
Mm.
Also, after this run, which will be at some point, we'll be panning over to the donation incentive run, which we have met, Supermarket Shriek. Then, when that happens, I'll be handing over the commentary to Selkuth Mind. So, yeah.
We have now arrived at the Coliseum of Fools. Now, if you're anything like me, you died here a lot, casually.
Yeah, the Coliseum, good old wave-based combat trials, featuring enemies that don't exist anywhere else in the game for the most part, and that are usually really annoying. But most of these are pretty safe when labbed out. But optimally, these are also done over Charmed, which, as we mentioned before, is double damage. So you effectively have only 5 HP to work with, and it's very easy for things to go south. Luckily, we do now have most of our nail upgrades, which, in addition to nail arts, will kill most enemies pretty quickly.
Trying to go for dash slash storage there, and I messed it up. Cool. Collar 1 without issue.
Nice.
And now we're going to go straight into Colo 2. Alright. Hoppers is my favorite section of Call of 2. Because it's basically a soul refresh and I can get a full heal. Pretty much for free.
Yeah. The
Unless
first
I
two
do that.
Colosseums are mostly pretty chill.
Just gonna go over here. Alright, now for a big hopper play. Game. Okay. No, my controller disconnected. What the heck? Technical difficulties, folks. What is going on with you? You do not want to see me on a keyboard. Looks like my camera died as well. I don't think I'm gonna get that back. Oh, come on. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Oh my god. Okay. Alright, so now we get our first introduction to floorless combat. Basically involves just hugging the walls because the floor is spikes. Yeah, it's pretty tame. Yeah, and not only that, it's followed immediately by frogs. Alright, we're gonna take a second to heal up here. I said heal up, not take more damage. This Hollow 2 just insists that I be on 5 health at any given point. Okay. Time for oblobbles. Alright, and there's Hollow 2. We'll wait for this geo spread to Alright, and there's Hollow 2. We'll wait for this geo spread to
We're already a little bit behind. He's already quite a bit behind schedule. We're going to be Noodle's going to be wrapping up the run very quickly, and get an ending rather than just getting the full 100% true ending. Then we'll be moving on to the supermarket shriek run, and hopefully we'll have something that will vaguely resemble being on schedule. So yeah. Said, yeah, we are actually just full cancelling the run because A, we're behind schedule, and B, the stream's collapsed. So yeah. Want to add a finishing remark?
Yeah, so that run didn't really go as I was hoping it would. Unfortunately, technical difficulties means that I can't get my stream back up and running. My controller was acting weird, so unfortunately, we're not going to see the end of this run, which is kind of disappointing because Hollow 3 is always a favorite part of the run, as well as White Palace and the Hollow Knight Radiance fights. But
Yeah.
thanks everyone for watching. Thanks everyone who donated. And thanks to Indiethon for letting me attempt to run Hollow Knight. What I did finish, you know, it was fun. So hopefully I can get into another event and not have technical difficulties. So
And we can't really blame you for that. There's technical difficulties every marathon.
right.
Yeah. Next
Yeah,
time,
we
you
just
just
had
hope
to-
it doesn't happen to you.
Right, exactly. I just had to be the unfortunate one. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I don't
Cool.
really have anything to add.
I also like to point out that this also means that I'm going to be handing over to Solkuth Mind on the hosting side. So I'd like to briefly thank both Tempest and, of course, Noodles for the runs. It has been a good experience. If A, falling behind schedule, and B, the technical difficulties that have occurred. And I'd also like to briefly thank the organizers and also Panda because he's a great guy. That's all that needs to be said.
Mhm.
All right, I think we're handing over to an ad break. So, yeah, I guess I'll see you all whenever it ends up happening.
Indeed.
Cool.
Yeah.